Hi, I'm Lynn, and I have been working with fabrics for the last, 6-7 years now, doing both eco-printing and botanical printing. As you can see, I've always gardened. I love to be in the garden, and I saw an eco-print scarf about 10 years ago, and it just seemed like the most magical thing I'd ever seen. So then when I retired, the idea of being in my garden and making something from my garden really appealed to me. It's a love of plants, it's a love of leaves. I drive down the road now and I'm just constantly looking at leaves. The shapes of them, the colors of them. I look at the plants and then I right away want to test them. Will it print? And I find that the majority of them won't, but then I find a new one that does, and it's a treasure. So these are all test prints. I make lots and lots of these. These are for the eco print on white fabric. I'm testing to see whether the leaves will print. If they're green or this light color, they probably will not print. If they're this darker color, they will print. So of all the plants in my garden, there aren't that many that will actually print. This is smoke bush, and I actually planted it a couple of years ago because I love the way the leaves print. This is a cranesbill geranium. There's many, many varieties of cranesbill geranium. They tend to have a very nice shaped leaf, and they also print well. So this is actually another cranesbill geranium, even though it looks entirely different. I picked the other one and this one because of the contrast. So this has these tiny little leaves that, if I separate them, often look like little stars. Both of the ones I picked are cranesbill geranium, but they're very, very different. Roses, the wild roses and the domestic roses print really well. And I particularly like to use more of the wild roses because it's what I have. And I like to get the whole thing rather than just a leaf or two. There's the rose on the scarf. You see what I mean? There's the rose print. And sometimes the color of what you pick isn't going to be the color that prints. It's why it's such a surprise. I still get surprised by it. And what prints in the early spring is often different than what prints in the fall. Although I don't work at all in the winter because there's no leaves. And some people do freeze and press them, but I've just decided it's really a fun thing for me to do with my garden, and in the winter I'll sit by the fire and knit. That's better. So we've got the rose flowers and 3 different kinds of cranesbill geranium. And we have that smoke bush, those beautiful purple flowers. And then we have the smoke bush puffs. So we'll go over here. So these yellow flowers, bright cheery yellow flowers, are coreopsis. And again, there's lots of varieties of coreopsis with different kinds of leaves. So it turns out that for this, not only does the flower print, but these little leaves, these little ferny leaves print, which is so much fun. So sometimes I use just the flower and sometimes I use this entire stalk. Eco prints work best on protein fabrics, silk and wool, but the silk just has an affinity with the tannins in the flowers that seem to just pull it out. Here are the leaves that we picked out in the garden. And I'm gonna dip each leaf into iron. The iron makes a reaction with the tannin in the leaf and also helps draw out the color. So this iron water I go down onto the railroad tracks, and there's some, maybe I shouldn't say this, but some old rusty spikes that have come out of the tracks. I pick those up, I put them in a jar of water and I let them sit, and it makes this rusty water. So this is my tub full of rusty iron water. I don't want the leaf dripping, but I want some of that iron water on there. Here's that coreopsis that we picked. I'm gonna use the whole stem. The other thing I do is I often turn some leaves down and have some leaves up, because the leaves will print differently depending on if they're up or down. And I'm putting down that rose. So this is one of the cranesbill geranium. I probably would think a little bit more about placement than I am right now. Sometimes it's best not to think too much. I mean, the leaves are beautiful. I gotta have one more something down here in the corner. Yeah, so that kind of covers it. Okay, so I'm now gonna roll this scarf onto this dowel. When it's rolled, the contact between the plants and the silk is pretty intense, and that's what actually forces the printing of the leaves. It seems very strange, but I'm putting that on there to create a real tension, because the key to getting a print is to roll it really tightly. You can see I'm putting a lot of pressure on it. Sometimes my prints aren't as strong at this very end because it's been hard to get the pressure. Just put a little parchment on the bundle because just to keep the moisture in. People have lots and lots of different ways of doing these bundles. It's just, this is a way that I didn't always do it this way, but this has been a way that just seems to work for me. So now that I have this bundle wrapped, the next step is to put it in a steamer, and it needs to steam for 2 hours. And initially I just did it in a pan on the stove, and that worked okay, but somebody gave me an electric turkey roaster. I never knew that they existed. I don't really know anyone that uses one, but they're fabulous for this, and maybe for turkeys, I don't know, but that's where this is going. All right, so here's the turkey roaster, and I'm gonna take out the old bundle, which should be done. It's been in there for 2 hours. I probably should have brought a pot holder with me. And I'm gonna put in the new one. This one's a little hot. So that one's now gonna go in for 2 hours. All right, so this is the big reveal. We're gonna see if we got anything. This is not the one that we did just a little while ago. That one's in the steamer. This is one I did earlier. This originally was this color, and I actually had made that color using 2 different dyes. The effect I'd like to get is the background to be really dark. Actually, I'd like the background to be as dark as this with a light green fern. I have no idea whether I'll get it or not. We'll see at the end of this when I take it out. Oh, I might get something. It's certainly darker than the other one. This was the original color, so this is a little darker than the original color, but it's cool. So this fern, actually, I captured more of that green color. So let's do a little more. I get kind of excited. It's like opening a Christmas present or something, you know? Rip at it. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's some things I'm noticing, you know, and that's when I start analyzing it right away. But yes, it's a lot more of what I wanted. Look at, now I see you here, I focus on theirs. Here's a little something happened there. But overall, I'm happy with this. I haven't gotten this before, this kind of effect. It's fun, fun! Yeah, no, I like that. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm fascinated by it. So there's always a new plant variety. I'll never stop learning. I hope I don't stop learning. There's lots of people here doing lots of different kinds of art. I'm just so glad I wound up here.